Proverbs 31, verses 10 through 31. An excellent wife who can find? She is more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hands to the distaff, and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household are clothed in scarlet. She makes bed coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchant. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Great job. Thank you, Zach. Having a little bit of a father moment on Mother's Day. So, I don't know if that's legal. If you are a guest with us for the first time, just want to say again, hopefully you have felt warmth and friendship and welcome here. So I just want to reiterate that. And if you don't have a church home where you worship weekly, we would love for you to give this a shot for a few weeks. See if you hear the gospel. See if you appreciate the warmth of so many here who want to extend friendship to you. So today we're in Proverbs 31, which is, I guess, the most famous passage in the Bible about what it means to be a Christian wife, woman, wife, and mother. And it's a rich passage. It's a unique section in Proverbs because each of these verses can stand alone as a proverb, but they don't. They're stitched together in this beautiful poem. And it's this poem about wisdom in a woman's life and how wisdom affects the life of a woman. It's an acrostic poem, so it might help you to know the 22 verses that unfold here each start with the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which is fairly creative and memorable, and so you walk through the 22 verses and you're getting another idea, another idea, another idea, and it's crafted that way to show that this woman's character runs the whole scope, the whole range, runs fully, like from A to Z. Wisdom has changed her life. That's the intention of the poet. Wisdom, the art and craft of living as God intends, is worked out in her identity, her marriage, her work, her family, her care for the needy. Like she embodies from beginning to end, in every part of her world, she embodies wisdom. And so this is not just an ancient artifact from Israel's past, a poem that families would know. It's more than that. It's this beautiful vision of womanhood. It's a beautiful, compelling vision of womanhood, a bold, beautiful vision for godliness in the home, and it's designed to inspire both men and women and family life in Israel and in the church. Now, here's the thing. Because it's such a big, bold, beautiful vision, it often feels to Christian women overwhelming. In fact, one of our ladies this week said, I avoid Proverbs 31 sometimes because it feels so overwhelming. It's kind of depressing. I can't live up to this. Those are her words. I can't live up to this. Hear the gospel this morning. That's exactly right. You can't live up to that. In fact, that's not even the point of Proverbs 31. God does not intend for you to live up to this ideal, nor should you be measured by it, or worse, critiqued by it. That's not how the wisdom of Proverbs works. Proverbs is not law pointing out your imperfections. If you read Proverbs as law pointing out your imperfections, you will suffer and collapse under the weight of this. It's way too big. It is a big, beautiful vision. We got that part right. But we can't, ladies, this is not the law pointing out what you'll never be. This is wisdom remaking you. If you try to live up to this profile of perfections, you will collapse under it. If, on the other hand, you read it as an invitation to wisdom, if you read this as God intends, that wisdom would invite you and remake you to live wisely in your marriage, parenting, work, finances, caring for your neighbor, caring for your aging parents, if you follow Lady Wisdom with an increasing willingness to listen to God's ways, it will feel very different. It will feel freeing. It will feel life-giving. Wisdom will pull you further up and further into a way of life that will satisfy you. Flourishing, joy-producing, and taking other people with you. So it's really important from the outset that we read this the right way. And man, who wants to come to church on Mother's Day and leave with a weight like that? Don't do that. Let this be an invitation to a way of life that would be beautiful and satisfying and life-giving. Let me show you her value, work, strength, compassion, kindness, and then we'll close with her influence. Number 1, verses 10 through 12, her value. Begin here with me in verse 10. An excellent wife. Do you see that? An excellent wife. Who can find her? She is far more precious than jewels. The point of verse 10 really is the point of the whole poem, which is that the wife of excellent character is formed and shaped by God's wisdom. She embraces God's wisdom, and it changes her and makes her a different kind of person, a rare commodity, an uncommon thing. She's more valuable. She's like a rare jewel. She's more valuable than diamonds. But even though she's very rare, verse 10, don't stop looking for her. Remember, the audience of those to whom this is written, this is not written primarily to the women. This is written primarily to husbands and sons, rather to men who are going to be fathers and sons. What should you look for? What should you pursue in a woman? Don't stop looking for her because she's hard to find. She's incredibly rare, verse 10, but you should look for her and pursue her, and you should, that's what, in the same way that in Proverbs 4, the father pleads with his son to get wisdom. He's like, in all you're getting in life, get wisdom. In the same way that works, this is an invitation to young men to search for a godly woman. So, if you're between the ages of 15 and 25, and we'll have more of those maybe in the second service, but there's a few in here. If you're between the ages of 15 and 25, can I just get you to dial in for a second with me here? Don't look for a perfect woman to marry. Don't look for a perfect woman to marry. You're already building your profile. Check, 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 check. Don't look for a perfect woman to marry. Look for a woman who wants wisdom to perfect her in her way of life. That is so much more important, right? There's not only like the perfect woman to marry, she's not out there anyway. But if you look for a woman who said already, wisdom is going to guide my life, is going to perfect my life, wisdom is what I want to grow into and mature into, then when you find her, look at verse 11, the heart of her husband trusts in her. What on earth would you want in a relationship more than that? Like genuine, deep trust. So he'll lack nothing. The word there in verse 11 that says no lack of gain, it's a little more striking in the original language. It's a reference to, it's the word for plundering a city after you took it and you conquered it. Warriors plundered the spoils, right? So this is like she's out there living her life and she's bringing back all the good spoils of this world to honor and bless her family. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will lack nothing. He will be blessed by her. Secondly, look at her work. Verses 13 through 16. This woman is a working woman. Verse 13 says, verse 13, she seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She's not stuck at home. She works the marketplace. She's known for her initiative and her industry. Verse 14 says she's like a ship of the merchants. She travels, she makes deals, and she's at the center of local commerce. She's very productive and competent. Verse 15 and 16, she rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household, portions for her maidens. She considers a field and buys it with the fruit of her hands. She plants a vineyard. She is an energetic worker, a careful entrepreneur. This lady is working out wisdom in her life. Proverbs 31 explodes the stereotypes, both old and new. I love the way Keller describes this. I'll just give this to you. Tim Keller in his book on Proverbs. Proverbs assumes, as does the rest of the Bible, that the husband is head of the home. This headship will take different forms in different marriages. But however you conceive it, it cannot be taken to mean that the husband alone makes all the management decisions. The wife of Proverbs 31, she's an administrator, a broker, a philanthropist, a craftswoman. This is not an absolute template for all wives or all husbands, but they both contribute what they have and can create and manage in a household together. If you're a husband and you're not leading your wife into a way of flourishing vocationally, if you're a husband and you're not helping your wife to flourish vocationally, that is not responsible biblical headship. We affirm and think it's really important to affirm responsible biblical headship. But if somehow that translates in your home into you just kind of do your own thing and she does her own thing, that's not what we're talking about. A husband cultivates, leads, and guides and encourages his wife to flourish vocationally. Her vocation matters. And that work will take so many different forms. And I do see why it could be overwhelming to read this passage and look at all that she's doing and all of her work. And so, wisdom says, pursue that in the right way. Number 3, her strength. This woman is strong. Verse 17, she has physical strength. It's actually increasing. Look at this. Verse 17, she dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She's working. She has constitutional strength, verse 18, working hard into the night. She has mechanical strength, new technology that she's using, verse 19, spinning and crafting. So what I'm saying is it's a misreading of the Bible to think that strength is only for men. The Bible doesn't talk in that way. Now, when it comes to brute strength, maybe most husbands have a brute strength that's more than their wives. That's true. But that's not the way the Bible's talking about it here. The Bible is commending a woman for her strength. It's a misreading of Scripture to think that strength is only for men. She also has, so she does have physical strength. She also has a strength of character. I think this is beautiful. Look at verse 25. She's got a strength of character from a lifetime of wisdom. Verse 25 says, strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the future. What does that mean? So we've seen her ability, her craftsmanship, right, to make 1,000 thread count sheets for her family. She's really gifted. She does beautiful work. But that's not what she puts on in the morning. Look what she puts on, verse 25. Strength and dignity. So sometimes in this proverb, strength is a reference to physical strength. At other times, it's a metaphor. It's a reference to character. It's a reference to who she is as a person. That's what's happening in verse 25. So that's what she puts on in the inside. She dresses herself with poise and dignity and composure and strength so that she does not fear the future. Listen, when other women feed on fear, she does not. When other women seem to feed on fear in an unhealthy way and start talking about the way the world's going to corrupt their children, or how difficult it's going to be to live if my husband dies first, I don't know how that's going to work, or when other women start talking about financial crisis or life-threatening illness, she senses that other women are talking about this and there's this growing fear. She is not going there. She's fearless because of verse 30. Because her fear of the Lord displaces the anxiety and the worry. She is so confident in God, like this is God's world. He is sovereign. I am trusting myself into the Lord's hand, like a woman who fears the Lord. That's who we're discovering here. And her fear of God and her personal strength and dignity are all really closely tied together. Here's the fourth thing. She's compassionate. I love this. Verse 20 says, she opens her hands to the poor. Now, a more literal rendering would be, she opens her palm. Some of you might have that in your translation. So this woman who's made a lot of money, who's very productive, who's incredibly competent and profitability and all of that, this woman who really could just build her own kingdom doesn't do that. She takes all the skills, all the gifting, all the profitability, and she balances that out beautifully. And some of what, a significant amount of what she makes, she opens the palm of her hand and gives it away. She holds her stuff loosely, when she could very easily just do this. This is mine. I'm good at this. I made this. Man, we're going to go buy this. We got more of this. We got that. This is a beautiful expression. Like, she opens her hands to the poor. And then she even extends them, it says in the next line, to those in need. I was reminded in reading the Gospels this week of what Jesus said. When you give a dinner or a banquet, don't invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or your rich neighbors, because they'll just invite you back. When you give a feast, when you open your home, when you show hospitality, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind, and you will be blessed, because they can't pay you back. This woman, and her children are watching her. Listen to this. Her children are watching. This woman is full of compassion. Her kindness is in verse 26. I love this. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Oh, here's the wisdom theme again, right? That's right. So she opens her mouth with wisdom. Wisdom has been pursuing her. She's been pursuing wisdom. It's now a way of life for her. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She speaks kindness. There's a lot of stuff she could say, because this world is broken. But she speaks kindness. When she opens her mouth, she speaks wisdom and kindness. Wisdom is attractive, isn't it? Wisdom is incredibly attractive. That was number 5. Let me give you number 6. We'll close with this. Her influence. Look at verse 23. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. I think verse 23 has 2 really important effects. Number 1, it shows the powerful influence of her calling on his calling. So when we talk about complementarianism and men complementing, that's with a complement with an E, husband and wife complementing each other, living in a biblical complementarity, that's what we're talking about. There's a powerful influence of her calling on his calling. Her unique calling at home, at work, in ministry, among the needy is not sidelined because he's a powerful leader. Not at all. In fact, her practice of wisdom in everyday life, the way that the family works in the Scriptures, her practice of wisdom in everyday life has unquestionably helped him become the man that he is, a man of character and influence and godliness. See biblical marriage like that, as a beautiful portrait of complementing each other, growing one another in wisdom and grace. So it has that effect, right? It shows the influence of her calling on his calling. But secondly, her reputation and character is so true and noble, right, that it enhances his character as a leader in the city. That's amazing. Oh, you can trust that family. Yeah, I know his wife. You can trust her. I know her husband. The reputation and the character that complements one another. These are two incredibly influential people working together to make a case for living according to wisdom. That's the point. The point of Proverbs 31 is to make a case for the power of wisdom when it's worked out in a marriage relationship. Her influence is incredibly powerful and beautiful. And this is not like a backdoor way to get women influence. No, this is the way the scriptures think. And it's the way it works. Look at verse 28. Her children rise up and call her blessed. This is her influence. This is her influence. Her children see her life for what it is. Almost certainly this is her adult children. Her children who are 16, 18, 22, 25, 35, they will say, this is a blessed. They will praise, they will bless. This is not just a praise fest designed to make mom feel good about herself, right? This is honoring her as a person and especially honoring her godly way of life. They're saying, I want to live like you lived. They're growing up and saying, when I grow up, I want to be like you. I want the wisdom that has characterized your life. I want the decision-making process. I want to understand how you know what to do and when to do it. Her children will rise up and call her blessed is a statement about the success of wisdom in her life. Her children are saying, I want to walk with God like I've seen you walk with God. And what's so amazing about that is that they've had close inspection of her life. Who knows a mother like a child who's grown up with her and now looks back on life? Verse 29. Notice the quotation marks in verse 29. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. This is dad, or this is husband. This is husband speaking on behalf of the family. And he's speaking a blessing on behalf of the family. This verse also has an incredibly practical effect to it, both in the literary context of the poem and for us practically today. Here's why. Because at the beginning of the poem, verse 10 says excellent. Mark that. Go back and see that. The word excellent in verse 10. You might have noble or virtuous. Any of those three words. It's the same word that shows up here in verse 29. So it's the introduction and the conclusion of the poem. That is to say, this is the point. This excellent, beautiful, godly, noble woman she has embraced wisdom, and this is an affirmation from her husband. Verse 29. There are so many women out there, and you know, a lot of them have done well. Many women have done excellently. But you are right here above them. In this family, in this life, this is what we see. This is his version of saying, best wife ever, right? Best mom ever. Because of the effect of God's word and God's wisdom in her life. He can't be saying, man, I'm so glad I chose you and you chose me. This thing is really working out. He's not saying that. He's saying the effect of wisdom in your life is so powerful, so beautiful. Here's the last thing. I think that rule number 17 is don't preach too long on Mother's Day. Is that right? Rule number 17? Is that it? Here's the last thing. Here's the last thing. Verse 30. Go to verse 30. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is vain. But a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Physical beauty is not being dismissed here. It's being sort of exposed for its limitations. But it's not, physical beauty is not wrong. But it just doesn't endure like the beauty of wisdom, which remakes a person and keeps remaking a person into a more beautiful and beautiful person. So ladies of all ages, please don't leave here today. Don't leave here today with this profile of perfection. I mean, we've piled up a bunch of stuff here. Her identity, her value, her strength, her kindness, her compassion, her influence. Don't leave here today with this profile of perfection hanging over your head. That's not what it means to beautify yourself, to perfect yourself. That's not what's happening here. A woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. That means the fear of the Lord is about wisdom and relationship. It's about walking with God. It's about reverence. It's about discovering who God is in the person of Jesus Christ. Jesus, the New Testament introduces us to Jesus as the fulfillment of the wisdom of God. Jesus is the embodiment of the wisdom of God. So don't leave here under the crushing weight of expectations. Today, as we bring this service into a close, throw yourself on the wisdom of God in Christ and ask the Lord to take you further up and further in to who Jesus wants to remake you into, working from His righteousness, not for it. Right? Because in the gospel, we don't work for His righteousness. We work from what He's done to us. So we're going to sing a song in just a second. And it's not I, but Christ in me. And there's a couple places in this song where you feel the depth and darkness of despair. And then you throw yourself on the mercy of Christ. So wherever you are this morning, mother, grandmother, maybe you're just a guy who's here worshiping, you're a dad, you're a husband, you're a teen, wherever you are, listen. Stop trying to perfect yourself. Listen for the gospel in this song that perfects us.